We'd like to welcome each and every individual to Voices of Integrity podcast for your voice in my headset on friendship. And we're just going to mark this one as a favorite. We just know it's going to happen before it happens. How do you know that, Mark? I don't know. I can just feel it. Can't you all just feel it? Nora, is there anything you wanted to accomplish specifically today before I dive into some of the things I've got?
Nope, I don't think so.
All right. So I'm at pickleball today, and a good friend of mine, I won't name his name. Um, I won't name his name. Um, he and I were talking, and he was talking. He's really excited, and he's talking about how he's learning new things and how like really significant things. And obviously, he's excited, so I'm excited because that's what friends do. And he's like, it's like everything's connected into everything else. Like everything's interconnected. Like your business, your life, like everything's interconnected. I'm like, yeah, right. Like the whole thing, like everything. And it's like, so he's like, I was having a problem in business, but then I saw that, I saw that maybe I could solve it in my personal life, like my with my marriage or my kids. And so I've noticed that for years too. When back 20, 30 years ago, if I'm having challenges in my marriage, often I'll find the solution in business. If I'm having challenges in business, I might find the solution with my kids. So everything's interconnected to everything else. And I'm like, right? So that was pretty cool. Then he said, like, I don't think we realize this. And then he flipped over to parenting and he said, I wish I'd have known decades ago. I wish I wouldn't have to be in my 60s to find this out that we should seek to be the parents that our children need, not the parents that we thought we needed. And I'm like, okay, yeah. I mean, I agree with that. Um, and I said, and he says, I wonder if people aren't like that because they're so self-absorbed and self-focused that they don't go ahead and they don't focus in on what the needs of others are. Like we're so fixated and focused on ourselves that we don't go ahead and look at, well, what do our children need, or what does the customer need, or what does our friend need. We're always looking at our own needs. I said, oh, I see that. Yeah, no, I agree with that. And then I said, so I'm trying to represent this well, like word for word, everything just exactly as it was, but I might not be. Like, I don't know. This is what I think I heard. And so, and it's like, then I said, yeah, I mean, like it's all about other people. And I said, and he says, yeah, I wish I'd have known that. I'm like, well, you did with your kids, your boys, your five boys and your daughter. And so if anybody's like, I know who that is, there's lots of people out there that have five boys and a daughter. So I'm not giving away any secrets here. And so definitely not throwing anybody on their bus. But I was impressed with this friend of mine because he was humble. And I said, well, you like moms and dads, they're naturally good. He says, I don't think they are. And I'm like, well, you are with your kids. He says, I don't think I was. And I'm like, what? And I said, I mean, like a dad, he should realize like every child is different. They all need different things. And you consider their personality, their needs, their temperament, what they've been through, all of that kind of stuff. You consider all of that. And I said, I mean, you all know me as Mr. Optimistic, always seeing the good and, always seeing that, the glass is 10% full. not 90% empty. You guys know that I'm one of those optimistic, rose-colored glasses kind of guy, always looking at the positive. Um, and so I'm like, well, moms and dads do that. I mean, they may not realize they're doing it, but they are. And he looked at me and he kind of cocked his head. He says, I don't think they are. I'm like, are you kidding? It's like, no. So then my head started to spin and spin round and round. It was crazy how much it spun. I'm like, maybe he's right. I mean, I think back to a discussion that I had with my wife when I said, hey, honey, you know why you're doing the things you are for the kids? It's for your own benefit. I mean, it goes back to the WIFM, the white paper. Like, it goes back to the white paper on what's in it for me, the concept of selfless selfishness. And so that's been around for a long time. And then she got a little ticked at me and she says, well, you're just putting food on the table. Because I told her, I said, the reason you're doing it, honey, I mean, I'm not saying you don't love your kids. I'm just saying that the main motivation for this, and this was over 20 years ago, the main motivation is so you to feel good as a mom. That's what it is. That's why you do the things you're doing. She was pretty upset with me about that. Um, and then she's like, well, fine, then you're just putting food on the table and doing all of that so you can feel like you're a strong, productive man. I'm like, well, there's a lot of truth to that. Then she really got to. I mean, self awareness is looking at yourself and saying, well, I'm not that smart. I'm not that righteous. I'm not that caring or giving. And so it's just being self aware. And then on the way back from pickleball, I was talking to Elaine and I shared this story, parts of this, and she came up with some crazy, insane insight in it. Elaine, do you remember what that was?
So I asked, so the time when people go backwards worse than before, is it because people get full of ego and think they were the ones connecting the dots when they really weren't? And if they, yeah, then you can go on from there.
Oh, so I find people to be like friends to go ahead and be really nice. They're nice giving. You love being around them, and then they're not. They're just mean little buggers, you know. And so you're like, so why is it? Why is it not ratcheted? Like why why do we as human beings see progress and then go backwards? And Elaine says, I wonder if it's ego when people see success, they take credit for it themselves. So the ratchet principle, some young men have been pursuing that, not not real actively, but and so if it's ego, if it's ego, so like like in Men in the Mirror. I think I was like 30, 40 years ago, I read that book. And it says that when a man sees success, he should look out the window, meaning when I see success, I should look to all of you and be appreciative of you, thankful of you. So should be appreciative of other people when I see success. And when I see failure, I should look in the mirror. And so,
But then if we see success, then we tend to want to take it and put it on us and say that we did it instead of giving the other person credit for it.
But that's really stupid to do that.
Right. But if we fail, we don't want to take that responsibility. If we fail and it's our fault, we don't
That's
want to take,
stupid to do that, though.
yeah.
I mean, is it that people really, I mean, they really don't understand? I mean, when we don't take ownership of something, we can't grow.
But right, if you take ownership of something, then you have to do something. And most people don't want to do something. They don't want the, I mean, they want the ownership, but yet they don't want the ownership. Does that make sense?
My thing is, they don't want the ownership. And why don't they want the ownership? I think they don't want the ownership because they are stuck in that room. They think they're outside of the room. They think they're in the rest of the house, but they're actually stuck in that room. That room is captivating them. So they don't see what the future could be. So they get used to the trauma, the pain, and where they're at, and they're drawn to that.
Do you think there's ever a time when people stand by the door and don't want you to go back in and heal from it because they benefit from you not being healed?
Yes, totally, totally. Yepper. That's the crab in the bucket principle. So there are crabs in a bucket, and you're starting to gain freedom, and they're all pulling you back in because they don't want you to go ahead and heal. Yes, ma'am, I do believe that. That's crazy you would ask that. Cool. So it's interesting because I think it was 2 years ago that, that I don't know, something on a post or something, something on a post, um, something was shared about Rosanna healing. And there's this goofball, I'll call him a man, although he's a boy. There's a goofball boy out there that went ahead and, like, I don't know, like smirky, snarky. He's like, are you sure you want her to heal? I'm like, you're just a goofball. You just you're just a goofball. I just like how can you be a man and you claim to be a father and like how can you not but I like he had deep wisdom and understanding because he doesn't want people to heal. He told me, I don't know what it was, 7 years ago, you know, it's the second conversation I had with him. And he's like, I control everybody. I can control everybody. I'm like, who says that? That's just weird. It's just weird. And so if somebody's not healed, it's like they all clump together and they're all wounded. It's like the walking wounded. It's like the poor souls HUA, and then they become a POS, and then a whole bunch of POSs get together and become an FOS. And then FOS is so it's almost like impossible to break because they're all addicted to it. I'm open for suggestions.
Say that again.
I'm open to suggestions.
No, before that.
I don't remember.
So what do you think it would look like if somebody was, standing outside the door and holding it shut, trying to not let you back in? Like, what would that look like?
I think they would go ahead and tell you you're good. Well, I think it has many flavors. I think one is they're going to try to make you feel good about being around them. It's like they want you in their life and they're afraid that if you get healed, you're going to leave because now you're healed. So it could be complimenting you, you're doing fine, you're healing. It could be, saying things like, yeah, don't be so hard on yourself. I mean, it could be, I don't know, what do you think? All of you, what do you think when somebody like the crab in the bucket, like the crab in the bucket, like what do all the crabs like what do all the crabs do to keep you in the bucket?
Well, for me, I think it was trying to convince me that like you can't like the past, like you can't, like it was too late. Like you obviously can't undo the past, but you can, take action to do better or whatever, but it's like just couldn't let the past go.
See, this is where nuance is something that's so intriguing to me. Like the biggest nuance I saw is I saw how other people would hold things in and weaponize them and then bring out the weapons when I said something about them they didn't like. They would bring out the weapons. Then I started to say, well, am I doing the same thing? And so somebody might irritate me a little bit and then irritate me a little bit more, or I might think something's not quite right and I just let it go until I don't. And I'm like, hmm.
Well, for me, it's like, okay, so obviously, divorced and found out my ex-husband had been cheating on me. But when we sat down and talked about it, it wasn't like, there's no healing here. Like you can't. So it wasn't that, but it was like, but then yeah, it was just weird. It's like the past, yeah, you obviously can't change it, but there's actions you can take and there's healing that could happen, if that makes sense.
It does. And here's the model that was 13, 14 years ago. So, but it's never like what methods do people use? What methods do the crabs use to keep you in the box?
Pull you back down.
Yeah, to pull you back down. What do they do to pull you back down? My guess is it's based on the personality. But then the question could be asked that nobody's ever asked me is, Mark, maybe the crab shouldn't be out of the bucket. I mean, the bucket's the safe place to be, right? I mean, if you're free in the ocean, you could get eaten by a shark or the ocean's a dangerous place to be for a crab. I mean, you go ahead and like you have this nice fish tank and people make it, and it's beautiful and you have all these kids coming up and pointing at you. It's such a great place to be, and it's so cool.
It feels safe.
You feel safe. Not realizing what, Rosanna?
It might smother you.
No, crabs can't read that they're in an aquarium at Red Lobster.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So I like what, my friend said. And I loved that he said, like, I'm sad that I didn't know this beforehand. And so, like, when he says that would be a whole conversation, like we tend to marry the parent that we had the least connection with to do a do-over. And I can see that in my marriage. My wife is mostly like my dad. And so it's like, so you want a second try. Like, what could possibly go wrong? So did I try to be the dad that that my kids needed me to be? For sure. Now, I had an advantage of understanding personalities. So I understood, when Ginger Ann was just a toddler and she was, bumped up and, a little rug went ahead and, and she had to turn around and she had to pat it down, make sure it's all perfect. She's firstborn. I knew then, okay, she's an analytic. So I could see 10, 20, 30, 40 years, 50 years, and I could see into her future and said, I got to help her to make sure that this does not go ahead. Like, I've got to give her the skill set. So with each one of my kids, I think I was a different parent. With all of them, like, I didn't have a deep relationship with my dad for sure, and mom-ish, as much as my mom and my dad allowed me to have a deep relationship with my mom. So more so with my mom, but even then, not a lot. So I went ahead and definitely wanted to make that available to my children. But I don't know. I mean, I didn't recognize, I did not, I mean, when I was dating my daughters, when they started to get a little older in the preteen years, I realized, Mark, you're on a date. When you date them, you do whatever they want. And I realized, I'm like, this is not setting them up for marriage. Like, if if their dad dated them for 18 years and they always got to do what, they wanted to do, that was not good. Because that's not going to be good for them and being a wife. So at the age of, I don't know, when they were 9 or 10, I started saying, oh my goodness, I got to shift my strategy here. So we did some things, still mostly what they enjoyed, but we did some things that I enjoyed because I wanted to prepare them for husbands and for men. Like, they're going to do things, they're going to want to do things different. You need to do that. That's part of a marriage. It's part of a relationship. So I think what's most frustrating to me is how much effort and work I put in and it does not seem like it worked.
Well, the question I have is, you put the effort and work in, it doesn't seem like it worked, but what if you didn't put the effort and work in at all? What would it have been like?
I'm not God or a woman, so I don't know the answer to that. You'll have to talk to God or a woman. I mean, it's interesting to me on how oblivious people are. I mean, it's mind numbing to me on how delusional people are and how the most delusional people seem to train. So there was once I was, I family I knew, and we are actually on vacation together. And, this dad is not the most attentive dad in the world. Like, not really. Like, he's just not. And the mom does most of the disciplinarian work and does all of that. And the kids were well behaved in a rock shop. And one of the people said, you know, how impressed they were on how well the kids behaved. And the dad went ahead and piped up, chest came out. Yeah, their mom and I, we really work hard at this and this. And I just thought, like, yeah, it's not a judgment. It's just my observation is that's not the case. So I didn't say anything to him at that point, and I didn't say anything later because I'm like, he's just going to get defensive. He's going to get upset. He's going to create drama. Like he's just going to be him. That's just who he is. So he trained me not to say anything, so I didn't. And maybe if I had, maybe there'd have been a breakthrough. Like Galvin Miller, when he was in second grade and the 15-year-old girl said something to him, and it changed his life forever. Um, Nora, thoughts, questions, anything you got?
No, when you said that about being the parent that your kid needs, not the parent that, you thought you needed, brought back a memory, I guess. So my mom, I feel like she always struggled with saying I'm sorry. I don't, she hardly ever said I'm sorry. Even when she messed up, she hardly ever just said, "Hey, I'm sorry." So that was one thing, me as a parent, I was like, I'm going to be very um conscious of to, my kids is when I make a mistake, then I'm going to be the first one to say I'm sorry. Or even if it wasn't my mistake. But then I overdid it with Lincoln to the point where he couldn't do like everything he did, he was just like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry." And it's like, you don't have to be sorry. And then I realized like that's what I was doing, which is not what he needed.
Which is really cool that he's 3 years old and you notice that, I don't know, in the last year. So you have a chance to go ahead and make a modification.
Right.
And so I think a lot of times parents don't see that, they don't modify it. So we often tend to over exaggerate. It's like driving on the car, you go off to the left on the road and you go off to the left, you overcompensate and you end up in the ditch on the right hand side, not on the left. And I think as parents and reflecting back on, I just wish for me it was really clear on what I did wrong as a dad or what I did wrong as a husband. I wish it was more black and white. I wish it would be like, you didn't spend enough time. You spent too much time. You went ahead and you helicopter parent. You protected them too much. You didn't protect them enough. And so Yeah. Elaine, anything you got?
No, all good food for thought. Looking back, I think I can see where some things, and with that mindset, with some things that I could change now that would help, maybe the younger ones not get to the point that the older ones are at.
Right. And that's where I think, like, I would think that there would be a lot of parents that would be asking me, Mark or Rosanna, you guys had 7 kids, 3 boys, 4 girls. Like, what mistakes did you make? What do you wish you knew back then that you know now? When they're 3, like, what do you like? Nora's attending, podcasts for young men, and she's really focused in on Lincoln and how can she be like a single mom? How can she mold this guy, direct him, help him at 3 years old? And I admire that. That's special. That's so she's seeking input from multiple different vantage points. Multitude of wise counselors produces much wisdom. So I like that. Rosanna, anything else you got?
No, it's interesting to be an outside person looking at our life as parents and to see how we could, at least how I could have done better to maybe help to support the kids that I have now that have grandkids.
Right? I mean, I mean,
Yeah, there's so much learning. And then
yeah.
I also thought about which one of my parents what I was missing from that I decided to attract someone that was strong like you.
Yeah, I thought about that this morning too. Like, Ginge, you got anything?
That's a lot of food for thought.
And then iPhone. Who's iPhone? Is that Patrick?
What's that?
Oh, iPhone, anything you got? And so I told my friend this morning, I said, it was unbelievable the conversation that we had. We need to get it on a podcast, or we need to write, we need to write something or build a model or something. Because if we don't go ahead and lock this moment in, this thought, like if we don't really dig into it, like it's life changing. So I don't know if it's because my grandfather only saw them 5 times before he died when I was 9. I'm not sure, you know. So I didn't have none of my grandparents were really involved in my life most of my life. I guess Grandma Boersma was to a greater extent. She lived to be 99. So, but it's always been like when we got married, my wife was 19, I was 20, and I thought it'd be really cool to like map out, like it'd be really cool to map out marriages that have been there for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. And we did some of that. We'd ask them, but it didn't seem like there was anything of massive substance. Like, don't go to bed mad. Okay. Like, communicate. Okay. And so there was, but there, it didn't seem like there was substance. Didn't seem like, like an epiphany, like, oh my goodness. It was like superficial surface. It wasn't deep stuff. There's a, there's a Christian song out there about, I just want an honest conversation. And so, first 2 years of our marriage were brutal. I mean, brutal. I mean, really rough. And it's like we weren't prepared. I don't know if you can ever be prepared for marriage or ever be prepared for kids, but you can be more prepared. And so when I ran across the personality stuff, the personality masteries, I ran across this and it helped me to understand myself first and foremost. Oh, that's why when you go on vacation, you get upset because things get out of control. Okay, so if we plan better, then it won't. And if we know more, and so it helped me to understand me and what was going on inside of me, which I think helped our marriage a lot. It helped me, and then it helped me to understand my wife. Okay, this is why she's doing what she's doing. And then spend a lifetime and still haven't figured it out. How do you go ahead? How do you go ahead and finish the story? Start growing up. Take your entire house back. Anybody else have anything else? So it's up to you all, but I would ruminate on this the rest of the day. I would go to sleep expecting that you're going to get the best night's sleep you've ever had. I'd allow your mind to be opened up at night before you go to sleep. And then wake up with an excitement and energy to see what did you discover last night in your sleep. Because it seems like we're almost like just one piece of the puzzle away from finishing the puzzle so we can go to another dimension, a higher dimension. But you can't go there until that one piece is found. I have a sense I'm not going to be the one that finds the piece. I wish I was. I really do. But maybe a far better lesson than finding the piece and going to the next dimension is the understanding that any one of us at any time could go ahead and have a piece to the puzzle that somebody else is looking for. And it's many pieces to the puzzle that help us to succeed, and that we can find solutions in other people. And when we carry somebody else's burden, our burden is lighter. When we have empathy for other people, our burden is lighter. So hopefully this has been helpful and meaningful to all of you. Thank you for doing life together. Always remember we can accomplish so much more together than we ever could on our own. Have an amazing day. Bye-bye.